Hello. All right, we're doing this again. Another live stream. Hopefully y'all can hear me. Oh man, I am very behind on where I need to be for maintenance today. I ended up spending some time organizing my room because it got a little out of hand with all the random containers and substrates and stuff on the floor from a bunch of free houses I've done. But let me put my lamp on. But that's mostly taken care of. Let's see if I get this more in focus. Maybe like there. I don't know. But whatever. It is. It is what it is. All right. So in terms of updates, not got much other than I got a lot of maintenance to do in the next couple days. And then I have a limited time to do maintenance before I end up leaving next week to Pennsylvania. I will be spending the week at my buddy Brandon Mains's place for the week. We're going to have some fun, look for bugs and stuff. But yeah, it'll be my first time. I've been friends with him for, let's see, about like 7 to 8 years now, I think. I always forget. I'm bad with times. Okay. But we've been friends for a very long time now. And we chat like basically every day on Facebook Messenger. But I never met him in person, obviously, because he's across the country from me. But now, gonna make that happen. It'll be fun. I'm gonna steal some of his bugs. So yeah, that should be a nice time. So yeah, I'll be sure to get everything prepped for my absence before then. I mean, I only take care of my collection like once a week, basically. But I take care of every like container like once a week. But sometimes it takes me several days to complete the maintenance, So, but it'll be fine. I got baby. So my Leptarna laevigata, which is another species I'm gonna have to probably get from Brandon, actually. But my Leptarna laevigata, I did not do so well with them. I think I set them up in too small of an enclosure originally. Now they're in a 5-gallon, but the thing is, I got down to basically a male and a female. But the female was one that I had isolated from my main laevigata group and put with a male Ailuropoda in sinus for a crazy hybrid project. And she never ended up giving birth with the Ailuropoda. The Ailuropoda male actually died some time ago, and the female, laevigata is fine. Hey, Pleco. What are those? You seem to be separating? Not separating anything at the moment. Just doing maintenance. Maybe you saw me take out some trash, some rotten fruit or something. But yeah, so I have a female that I didn't think ended up mating with the Ailuropoda. And I think she aborted like a partial ooth as well before I ended up putting her back with my male laevigata just to see what happened there. But she gave birth the other day, or no, the other week, but I noticed them the other day. And she gave birth to a small litter, maybe like 8 nymphs. However, she's still very plump, very gravid looking. So it seems like she only gave birth to like a partial brood, like partial Ootheca, and she probably is gravid with more. So I'm really wondering if those babies that were born are hybrids between Ailuropoda and laevigata. So I mean, time will tell. Anything, even now that she's presumably been remated by the laevigata, one would have to assume that she still has Ailuropoda, sperm stored, if she did indeed mate with the Ailuropoda male. So, time will tell if that was actually a successful cross, but I obviously need to get some more pure Leivigata, probably. Although it'll be very apparent whether they are pure or not, because, I mean, Ailuropoda to Elliptorina, the morphology, a cross between those two would have to significantly affect the morphology. Not to mention the patterning and stuff, but the morphology especially. It's such a crazy difference, because like Elliptorina are the most like cylindrical of the hissers, and then Ailuropoda are like the opposite. They're the flattest, broadest. So the offspring would probably look pretty freaking crazy if they were hybrids. But if they end up just looking like Leivigata, then they're Leivigata. Basically, they're either going to look crazy, it's either going to be super obvious, or they are just pure Leivigata, and she never was actually mated by the Ailuropoda, and all babies being born are with the Leivigata sperm. So, but yeah, so that'll be an interesting thing to see. But I've been trying to make some kooky, crazy hybrids, and we'll see how they turn out. But that's the first one that's actually like given birth that may be hybridized. I'm ironically not having that much luck. Granted, I did go for some crazy crosses right off the bat. I mean, even though most hissers can hybridize, like Ailuropoda to Elliptorina is such a distant like cross, just in terms of morphological like compatibility. Genetically, they would probably come out. There's a high probability that they would just come out so like deformed that they wouldn't be able to survive and make it to adulthood. So there is a decent chance that can't be done, and that goes for a lot of the crosses I'm trying to make. But we'll see, because one of my theories is that even the ones that are crazily like different in morphology are probably able to hybridize and make babies. So not just sterile babies either, but like most hisser hybrids that have been proven out are virile and fertile. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, and this is another example. I put a Elliptorina chapardi female with a particularly small Princessia van Riebeeck black and white male. So that's another kind of crazy cross idea. So yeah, I'm kind of just shooting for the stars with these. I mean, abominations. That's the thing too, because if it works, it'll be really cool. I'm sure a lot of the hybrids would look really neat. And if selectively bred, if those hybrids were selectively bred for specific traits, not just allowed to become, randomly muddied, but for multiple generations, you probably get some really cool animals out of that. But that's what a lot of other hobbies do, like the plant hobby, I think the reptile hobby to an extent. But the bug hobby is just so fraught with people with bad practices that like it'd be very difficult to market those and then not end up with people mislabeling them and then inevitably somehow selling hybrids as pure stock species. That always ends up happening somehow. So it is unfortunate, but we can't have nice things. So yeah, I'm more so trying to create these hybrids just to prove it can be done, and kind of show off what those hybrids would look like too. Because it's also very interesting just from a taxonomic standpoint as well. The compatibility of those species and what they would look like, and then the possibility of like, okay, so are there hisser, species, some genre out there that have been described that are actually, in the wild, just natural hybrids from like hissers that had overlapping ranges, or unnatural hybrids now, because now habitats are being connected via roads and human travel in Madagascar that previously were very isolated. So I think I have seen sightings of wild hissers in Madagascar that, to me, I'm pretty sure they're hybrids. like Princessia x Grumpfordorina portentosa looking hybrids in near Princessia's natural habitat and far away from where portentosa are kind of native to naturally. So, yeah, it's definitely happening. So, recording what these different hybrids could look like could be valuable to some extent. And specifically with weird crosses that people haven't really done before. I mean, pretty much everyone can tell. Like, the most common Hisser hybrids out there are Princessia Van Rebecca X Grumpfordorina portentosa. Those are the most common. So, those, everyone really knows what those look like. But, weirder intergeneric crosses between, like, Princessia and Elyptorina and Ailuropoda and Grumpfordorina, too. Like, a lot of interesting potential there. Also, I doubt he's watching. Got anything new in your collection lately? Oh god, so much new. Like, I'm so behind on blog posts of new stuff that I've acquired over the months. There's a lot of things that I got like months ago that are now breeding for me, either have bred for me or died out that I have not yet gotten pictures of. Which sucks, especially in the species that died out, because I didn't get pictures of them before I failed with them. But anything new recently? It's been kind of dry the past few weeks. I have a lot of stuff coming to me. I mean, I'm going to be getting new stuff from Brandon, and also getting stuff right after I get back from Brandon from several sources. But lately, I think the latest package I got was from Alan. Alan John sent me a package of whatchamacallit. Well, Alan and Kyle actually sent me packages recently. Alan sent me a bunch of neat stuff that, of course, I'm instantly forgetting. He sent me several Charinus Acosta. Sorry, I'm like having heartburn right now. Yeah, Alan sent me several Charinus Acosta immatures, which are a micro species of whip spider. They're so cool. It was weird because he sent me 3, and a couple days after receiving them, one of the 3 was like on death's door. I kept them in the deli cup. Alan sent me them in for like a day, and then, well, no, I think 2 days, and then the 3rd day I decided to rehouse them. But one of the babies was like on death's door, and I thought it was gonna die. But I placed it on top of a piece of cork bark and just misted it a bit and hoped that would bring it back to life. And I really did not think it was going to survive. But then a couple days later, I opened up the enclosure and there's all 3 of them just running around, perfectly healthy. So that's great. But yeah, so those are doing well for me, especially now that I actually set them up properly. What else did he send? He sent me more Aranavaga species Mescalaro dunes. That's a species of Aranavaga that I had previously failed with. I tried keeping them not on sand, but apparently they really like/need sand, that particular species. So I got those set up. They seem to be doing well. What else did he send? Oh, Troglodilla white tigers. Those are really cool. Gosh, I'm forgetting. He sent me more Blaberus species. Blaberus CF chacoensis from Pantanal, Brazil. Because my colony crashed. These are doing great. Those. Gosh, I feel like he sent more, but I can't remember off the top of my head. Oh, I just rehoused them. Parcoblata Euleriana from Bibb County, Alabama. Very pretty, light-colored Euleriana strain. They almost look like mini Parcoblata Lata. Really like them. So those are nice. Yeah, I feel like there was a lot more in that package, and I'm completely blanking right now. Sorry, Alan. And dwarf species of earwig, Paralabella something. I forget the name. It's a cute little earwig. So yeah, a lot of neat stuff. And Kyle sent me some. He sent me a trio of Ceothophilus californianus that unfortunately did not make it. What else did he send though that actually did make it? He sent Aranavaga. So he had a Aranavaga. He has a colony of Aranavaga from Amado. I think it's Amado, Arizona, and there's two species. There were initially two species in that culture, and he sent me a group previously, a large group of like 20 individuals, more than that probably, and of that large group, only a single pair of the nymphs were of one species, and the rest were of another. And just to avoid confusing jargon here, the species that there was only a single pair of in that group was what I think is Aranavaga erratica. So I had a pair of those. However, the male matured and then died like right after molting, so he never mated the female. And the smaller dark species that was very prevalent in that culture, I have a colony established of those now. Pretty good breeders. But so I asked him for more of those lighter colored Aranavaga erratica from his Amado colony, and he sent me all the light colored females he could find, and every one of them was just a lighter colored female of the darker species in that culture. So I think that he lost the Aranavaga erratica that were in that culture, because they just the smaller, darker species just completely outcompeted him. So we lost erratica from that locality. However, I have erratica from 3 different localities now, including his Aranavaga species Swaharita colony, which is another double species culture. Apparently, because there's erratica in that culture, and then there's a smaller species that is very different from erratica. So I've had to start splitting those as well. So that's pretty funny. He keeps getting double species strains of Aranavaga without knowing. So yeah, that's been fun. Now I have to try to isolate those. Those are a little harder. The females of those 2 species kind of look similar. The males look very different though. So that's going to be a little bit more of a challenge to get pure cultures of both going. But I'll do it. And but then besides that Swaharita strain, I also have a strain of erratica from Phoenix, Arizona, which were previously misidentified as Tonkawa, but they're very clearly erratica. And another strain from DOT rest area, Arizona. So yeah, we've gotten erratica into culture several times from Kyle and Alan's adventures, which makes sense because erratica is one of the most widespread and most has most collection samples. Like, it's been the most extensively collected and widespread Aranavaga species, from what I can tell. Like, they're found all over the place. A lot of samples in Heidi's paper. So there was definitely makes sense that they would be collecting that species everywhere in the Southwest when they go on these trips. And there is some subtle variation too, especially in the coloration of the females between those localities too. Specifically, like the exact shades of red and like the amount of patterning that they have on them varies a lot from locality to locality in the females. The males look mostly the same though between the different localities. They're like Tonkawa, but with better, like prettier looking pronotum markings and typically broader wings as well. Broader and like less modeled wings. I think the erratica have like little to no modeling on their wings at all. Tonkawas have moderate to low modeling amounts on their wings. And uglier pronotums, in my opinion. calling Tonqua ugly, I'm just saying. Of the Aranavaga I've kept, they're not the prettiest. Although this new strain, I got a new strain from Ector County, Texas. It's a lot cooler, a lot more variable in coloration than the strain from San Antonio, Texas that we've had in culture for a long time. So I'm excited about those. Those have been breeding very well for me. It's funny because I used to suck at breeding Tonqua, even though they're like one of the easiest Aranavaga. I think that was just me keeping them a little too dry. Yeah, those have been doing good. Okay, so yeah, just remembered I got some Panacea on the way right now. I'm pretty much prepared, but would you mind sharing some tips? Set them up in several inches of very moist rotten wood substrate. It doesn't even need to be that rotten of wood. They seem to expedite the rot of the wood that you put them in with. Probably a result of their frass mixing in with the wood and them having a lot of cellulose breaking down bacteria in their guts. So yeah, they seem to rapidly rot the wood that they're put in. Like what I do to top off my Panacea substrates is I just remove half of their substrate, half their old like frass substrate, and I just replace it with raw, unrotted sawdust from wood pellets. And within a couple weeks, it's like completely edible to them. So, but they eat a lot of supplemental foods too. Like you can just feed them wood, but they grow much faster and better, larger sizes when you feed them, a decent amount of dog food and apple slices. That being said, they have some people seem to think that they don't eat much of the supplemental foods, but I think that's mostly because they have like small appetites for roaches, but they're definitely eating the stuff. And once they start breeding, you'll really notice they just go through whatever supplemental food you feed them, like crazy, faster than they eat the wood that you give them. So, yeah. But yeah, just set them up, tub of dirt, tub of rotten wood. Feed them like you would normal roaches. Some people used to think they were sensitive to temperature. They're really not. At least none of the species we have in culture seem to be. They seem to take it warm just fine, room temperature just fine. I would argue maybe Salgania are slightly temperature sensitive, but I don't even necessarily think that's the case anymore. So, yeah, they're really easy, especially Panacea angustipennis cognata, which is, if you're in the U.S., it's probably the Panacea species you're getting. Those are ridiculously easy. So, one of my friends actually set his Panacea angustipennis cognata up on coconut fiber, and they have been breeding just fine, being kept on coconut fiber and fed just normal roach food. So there could be a point made for cognata that they don't even require rotten wood, to be honest. So I haven't tried it out myself yet, but bottom line is they're really not picky. Really not picky. Thanks, by the way. I'm getting Angustipennis. I'm not sure the subspecies. If it's from someone in the U.S., I would be surprised if you were getting Angustipennis angustipennis. You really should ask the subspecies, because depending on the subspecies, they're going to differ pretty wildly in coloration, especially the nymphs. Like, there's no one. I'm the only one in the U.S. right now offering Angustipennis angustipennis that I'm aware of. I have the golden winged line of Angustipennis angustipennis, which is the only line of Angustipennis angustipennis in the U.S., sadly. But yeah, I'm the only one selling those. So if you're getting them from like anyone else here in the U.S., they're probably Angustipennis cognata, and if they're not, then I want to know who you're getting them from, because if it's a different line of Angustipennis angustipennis, I want them. I want those as well. But yeah, you live in their native range. Oh, okay. Well then, yeah, I wouldn't know then what you're getting, and they might not either. But generally speaking, Angustipennis and Gustipennis have 4 spots on the nymphs, 4 orange spots on their backs, and Cognata have 1 big orange spot on their back as nymphs. And both of those subspecies are very common across Asia. There's a little bit of variability in the coloration of Angustipennis and Gustipennis, though. And there's a similar species Angustipennis, subspecies, I think, Penistia, Angustipennis entenata, or it might just be its own species, Penistia entenata. And those are fairly similar looking to Angustipennis as well, but I think they're smaller. And the adults might be Brachypteris, I forget. But yeah. I'm gonna give. Yeah, okay, there you go. These, I'm really excited about this. I had my last male Eremoblata subdiaphana finally matured. Unfortunately, he's a bit deformed, so I'm not going to get good pictures of him, but he seems perfectly healthy, and he's like digging around and stuff, so I moved him to a smaller enclosure, and I have my 2 remaining females in here as well, and I'm hoping he does the deed, gets them mated, and then from there, I'm going to move the females. I'm going to put the females in a big old, what is it, 5 quart? No, probably 10 quart enclosure. I'm just going to give them a ton of space and a deep substrate with a vertical humidity gradient and see what happens. Yeah, I don't know why my males kept coming out messed up. I don't know what was going on there. Probably something to do with humidity. Possibly something to do with them needing some sort of environmental cues to trigger them to mature at a certain time. And if that's not given to them, they mature late, and then they just come out screwed up because they don't have enough energy to molt properly. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah. So a little spark of hope left for my Eremoblata subdiaphana. And then I just sent 3 other females that I had to Alan, because he also has a male nymph, and hopefully that one will mature fine and mate his females, and then he can try to do something with those as well. I know Kyle just failed with his Eremoblata as well, so yeah, hopefully me or Alan can salvage them. Yeah, not an easy species, which sucks because they're really cute. Probably the cutest U.S. native sand roaches. Also, if anybody on this stream that watches me lives in like Southern California, I need you. I need you to go get me some Arenovaga darwini, because there's a recent sighting that Alan showed me of an iNaturalist of that species. Someone collected a female, and I think it's the first image of a female of that species we've ever seen. And they look really cool. They just look like cooler Arenovaga investigata. Which is another species I'll hopefully be getting from Alan soon. But yeah, I really want Arenovaga darwini. They have long been my favorite, most wanted Arenovaga species. If someone from California can go down to the Imperial Sand Dune systems and collect me some, I would be eternally grateful. Definitely trade nicely for a group of those. It's so hard to get stuff out of California, sadly. there's just not a lot of hobbyists there that at least go out collecting. Collecting roaches at the very least. You know what? Look at this. So my Paranophyta formosona have been doing pretty nicely. It is also the enclosure that I have my cross between the orange and white outlines of Porcelia hoffmannseggi in. Although, I mean, I'm trying to remove all those offspring and isolate them to their own enclosure now. Which I got most of them last week, but there's still a few in here I haven't nabbed. But yeah, I'm hoping that trait proves out, because so crossing the white outline with the orange line should, in theory, produce offspring, a small percentage of, what is it, double recessive offspring that would exhibit both of those color morphs at the same time. And so what that would result in is a solid yellow isopod, which has been done with Porcellanites pruinosus by crossing the white out and orange lines of that species. So in theory, it should be possible with Porcellia hoffmannseggi. It's just no one seems to have done it yet, but I am doing it. So hopefully something neat comes out of that. Oh, it looks like I just had another litter born from that cross. So this serves two purposes, though. I should be able to probably isolate a wild type strain, which I do not currently own, of hoffmannseggi. I should be able to hopefully get a small percentage of the offspring produced from crossing offspring back to each other to pop out yellow. And then the rest I can feed off to my woodlouse spiders, which have started breeding, which is awesome. Yeah, I found babies in my woodlouse spider enclosure the other day, and there's lots of them. They seem to be doing well communally still, so that's a big win. And I now have a disposal for all my excess isopods, especially from like morphs, morph crosses. I mean, I could make like a lottery mix, whatever. I could sell the offspring that are just mixed oranges and whiteouts as a lottery mix too, but I don't really vibe with that. So I would rather just feed them all off, to be honest, and sell pure morph cultures. Well, thanks for watching, Pleco. Appreciate it. Appreciate you dropping by. Hopefully it wasn't too boring. Oh, yeah. All right. Put those back up. Oh, yeah. Yeah, let me put these hoffmannseggi in there. Set up. Unfortunately, I have tried and failed now twice to breed Porcellio dubusqui trogophila. I can't do it. I don't know why. I can't get their humidity right or something. They just end up dying. All the females die. The males survive, but all the females just die. So it's happened twice now. I'm probably not gonna try a third time. I don't particularly care for that species enough to murder another group of them. It's just, yeah, whatever. But I'm using their old enclosure. It's not even old, it's new. I set them up like a month ago. Yeah, using that to put my Hoff babies in right now. Lots of babies in my Aranavaga species Bakersfield, California enclosure. But yeah, the Aranavaga, the California Aranavaga curse is dead, people. It's dead. Me and Kyle are breeding these Bakersfield, California Aranavaga, and Alan and hopefully Kyle are breeding Aranavaga investigata from California as well. So we broke the curse. We finally got a couple species in culture from California that are actually breeding for us. So that's pretty fun. Especially since California has a lot of endemic Aranavaga species that we do not have in culture. This is my old rainbow glider set up. Here we got some Panchellora species speckled, which I recently got from Lucas Biohub, along with a booster of Panchellora species Guadalupe from my culture that I got from Junior a few months ago. Yeah, these guys are cool. Underrated species, in my opinion, the Panchellora species speckled. I guess the problem with them is they're not like super green, and they're not white either, those or blue, and so they're kind of in a weird color category that I guess a lot of people don't find particularly appealing compared to the other Panchellora species. So these get overlooked a lot, but they're really, really nice and pretty in my opinion. Prolific too, although kind of prone to crashing when things get a little dirty. More so, or at least equally so, as a lot of the other fragile Panchellora species. So they end up crashing for a lot of people, and people just don't want to get them again. But, all right. So I'm hoping my Panchellora, not my Panchellora, my Aranavaga floridensis from Tampa, Florida. Got several females now. They're all mated with males. So I'm hoping to start seeing babies from these guys soon. Because I really would like to get all three strains breeding well for me. Feed these with fish pellets. So I recently started getting these tetraciclid pellets from Walmart, and I really like them for use for smaller cultures of inverts that aren't necessarily going to eat an entire piece of dog food. And I think a lot of them like it just more than dog food in general. It's got more of like an insect meat smell to it, like shrimp basically. Insect meat. Compared to dog food, which just either doesn't smell like much or smells kind of more grainy, I guess. I don't know. Well, I mean, the first ingredient on those cichlid pellets is wheat, so it's not that much different than dog food. But I think the main meat in these is like shrimp, isn't it? Like fish meal, fish protein, shrimp meal. There's a lot of ingredients in that stuff. It also, however, has a lot of beta carotene in it. I think I specifically got, the one that boosts color. which appears to be very bioaccessible beta carotene for isopods as well, because I started offering it to several species, and it really started boosting their color, made them a lot more yellowish. Which, fun fact with those though, so I offered it to the two lines of paler. Well, not the two lines. Technically the same locality, but I got a group from Alan and I got a group from Kyle, and they were slightly different colors when I first got them. Of Eulamoides species Miami, little picopods, right? And then there's another line that Carlos of Tropical Isopods has that he named Yellow Submarines because his are bright, yellow, from Homestead, Florida. They're more than likely the same species, though, just two different localities. And my theory for that, because besides morphology, like morphology, they're all the same, but coloration, I should say, was the main difference between the two localities. But I think that just comes down to the people who got them feeding them different things, because basically I had Carlos's line of Yellow Submarines, and within like several months of getting them, they started turning white, basically. And now that I'm offering all of them, all the Eulamoides, I'm offering this color boosting beta carotene, cichlid pellet stuff. Now they're all like turning really bright yellow. So I think it's literally just a diet thing, their coloration. And so I think the Homestead, Florida, and the Miami strains are both the same species, probably. But yeah, so they all turn bright yellow when they have enough beta carotene in their diet. So easy fix for the coloration, although not as impressive as being that color regardless of diet, in my opinion. But still, it is a very strikingly bright yellow. So can't complain too much. Got a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Alright, I think that's going to do it for these Magnifica. My northern Vietnams, they were breeding a ton, and then they just kind of stopped. I don't know if they're going to breed again, if the females are going to have another breeding session this year before I put them into diapods. Possibly, because a lot of them are starting to get plump now. Yeah, I don't think these guys necessarily need a diapause, though I do think it probably helps syncing up sexes in a lot of these more temperate tropical roaches. So even if they don't absolutely require one, I do like to provide it. Probably also helps trigger nymphs to grow at a steady rate as well. So let's give them their fruit and all that. Got a new pump as well. It's a 1 gallon, and it's got this nice, hose apparatus, I guess. Because my old one was kind of breaking down. Been using it for a couple of years, so finally started giving out. But I like this new pump a lot. And it holds more water, so I don't have to run and replace it, refill it as often. T-Rex 307. How many invertebrates do I have? Let me check my blog real quick. I keep that list pretty up to date. I have... I hope the stream's still going while I'm off of here. I have 378 species of invertebrates in my collection. Obviously, those are not all well-established colonies. Some are, on the way out. Some are on the way up, Obviously, with anybody's collection, that is going to be the case. But Yeah, right now I have 378 species, which is a lot. It's more than most people have without having a large scale business and helpers. I take care of everything myself. This is all in my bedroom. But yeah, 378 species. And I will probably break 400 by fall, if all goes well. Well, I don't know if I'll break 30 species. I might actually, because I got a decent package coming from Kyle in the next couple weeks. I have a decent package from Tennyson and his dad coming soon. A few other deals that I'm hoping go through that'll boost my species count significantly. So, yeah, I might actually break 400 species by fall. So yeah. Also, I stand corrected. I'm looking at an Aranavaga erratica male right now. And I know I said earlier they don't have much modeling, but they do have modeling. It's just very like faint and almost what would I call it even? Very opaque modeling compared to the darker modeling that I tend to see on Aranavaga tonqua males. But they also have a lot more red on their pronotums, and the pronotum marking is different as well compared to tonqua. I would probably consider Aranavaga tonqua and Aranavaga erratica like sister species almost, to be honest. But yeah, very cool, very very pretty Aranavaga species for sure. And I got a lot of Aranavaga CF Hopkinsorum Pina Blanca hatching out right now. There's a lot of babies in here. Holy cow. That's nice. I don't think I even fed those. There you go. Do you keep Harpalus species? I have kept Harpalus species. I have bred Harpalus pennsylvanicus, or the CF pennsylvanicus. However, they are very difficult to breed. Carabids in general are very difficult to breed. I don't mess with carabids anymore because they are too difficult to breed. They are pains in the butt. They are highly reliant on seasonal cues for both oviposition and pupation. A lot of species require a diapause to pupate. A lot of species require diapause to then trigger adults to start laying eggs, either in the fall or spring. And then a lot of them are also just extremely picky about the substrate that they lay their eggs in, or the substrate that the larvae are reared on, too. Even though they don't generally eat their substrate, like they're very picky on, the feel of the substrate. I guess like some of them are samophiles; they require sand, straight sand. Others require specific like clay mixtures, and then others are not super picky. But yeah, and like some species like Calisoma, the caterpillar eaters, they require caterpillar frass, preferably live caterpillars, but just caterpillar frass will do to induce them to lay eggs. Without it, they're very unlikely to. There's some anecdotal evidence that isopod frass might be a decent substitute just because it has the same kind of composition as Lepidopteran larva frass, but the surefire way is using Lepidopteran frass. But yeah, so they're a pain in the butt. And Harpalus, if I remember correctly, when I kept them, I wrote an article for Invertebrates magazine about breeding, my experience breeding Harpalus pennsylvanicus years ago. If I remember correctly, my main hurdle was just the larvae had a pretty high die-off rate no matter what substrate I kept them on, no matter what food I fed them. They suck at finding food. You have to basically pre-kill everything for them and cut it open and then hope that they find it. So keep them in small containers. And then, yeah, they just had a really high die-off rate, which looking back, I think they probably are one of those species that required a diapause to mature properly. But yeah, I think I got a pupa, and then that pupa died before maturing. However, this was like 10 years ago, and I wasn't the most experienced breeder either, so I it could have just been like poor husbandry practices as well. But yeah, so essentially, I've never had great success with Harpalus. I think we have Harpalus affinis here in Idaho. One of those, I think, European invasives. Are those the ones that are like slightly iridescent? It's very hard to mate. See, I never had issues with mating them, but I think I remember I had Harpalus affinis, or a species similar to affinis, and they I couldn't get those ones to oviposit. Actually, I never got larvae from them. Yeah, that was my main hurdle with affinis. And I had mine on coconut fiber too. But larvae of Harpalus affinis feed on springtails and aphids. Yeah, I'm surprised they're able to catch springtails. Maybe like some of the slower poduromorphs, but I mean, carabid larvae are generally pretty slow and dumb. Like really freaking dumb too when it comes to finding food. I don't know how the things survive in the wild, but yeah. So I don't really have any tips. To be honest, you're probably having more success with them than I did. Yeah. Like Kunming copper Pseudoglomerus seem to be doing pretty well for me. Although I am annoyed with the amount of Compsodies that have snuck in here. Doesn't seem like the Magnifica are annoyed, but I am. These will be used as feeders for something. What the hell is that? Yeah, my Kunming copper Magnifica seem to be rebounding very nicely from me overselling them last year. I'm not parting with any coppers this year. I'm letting them build up in numbers, but it seems like they are doing just that, so that's great. Just kind of clear some of this bark of Compsodies. What else is new? What else has started happening? My Deropeltis species, what is it? Deropeltis species small from RSA, Republic of South Africa. Those have started breeding. They've started laying eggs, lots of ooths. So that's pretty nice. I'm really hoping that they take off for me. I'm keeping them more humid, more on the humid side than I've kept Darapeltis in the past, which is what I attribute my past failures to, just keeping them too dry. So, with any luck, I'll actually breed a species of Darapeltis, and it'll be my first breeding of Darapeltis and a first for the U.S. hobby too, so that'd be great. But I don't want to jinx it. But plenty of ooths, plenty of adults, just a waiting game to see if any of them hatch, any of those ooths hatch. But I hope they do, because that'd be great. I also bred Hebardina ugandana. I got a lot of those now. And I think that was the first for the U.S. hobby as well. And for those, again, the key was just keeping them pretty humid. So we're doing pretty good on the African bladed front here in the U.S. right now. So, but yeah, I'll actually probably start making Hebardina ugandana available soon. I'm working on trying to isolate a striped, excuse me, a striped morph of Comphodorina portentosa massawala that I got some stripy adults from Tennyson. Those have just bred. Nice big litter of babies, so hopefully I'll be able to isolate for a lighter, a more stripier, consistently stripy strain of that species. And in addition, all the babies that do not meet my criteria for stripiness will be thrown into my other Massawala colony, which seems to require a booster of individuals, because for some reason all my older adults in there are just not producing any babies. It's not any healthy ones, so I think I screwed up with those for a while. I think some of the adults might have serratia, and I think several of them are just too old, and I kept them in not ideal conditions for too long, and they just kind of have given up on breeding. So, but yeah, I'll be able to get probably healthy cultures of normal mixed Massawala, and then some striped ones too. Boy, all right. Eucardia Linglong here are doing fantastic. There are so many babies. It is crazy how these were not doing that well for me last year. I had a lot of issues breeding them, but I dialed back the ventilation a teeny bit, and that honestly and upped the air humidity in my room, period. And that seems to have helped a lot with a lot of my Eucardia species. Now they're doing numbers, man. There's a lot in here. A lot of babies. Westwoody are doing great as well. Not as great as last generation, I feel. I feel like I got more babies last generation, but there's still plenty of offspring in here. So I really can't complain. Yeah, they're doing good. Really, the only Eucardia I could complain about right now is the Eucardia forceps. Those are just not done well for me. I'm going to provide them a diapause this generation. I think that'll get my adults to mature at more synced rates. But I got some more from Lucas Biohub recently, some males specifically, to try to get some to mate with the females that I currently have that were unmated. So I think that's going well. At least I've seen pairs in there, adult pairs. And then Kyle will be sending me some extras, some more nymphs to boost my culture soon. So yeah, I'll get those up and running at a similar level to the rest of my Eucardia soon. And I will be providing them a diapause from now on as well. I mean, I don't know. We'll check on them and see. But so far, I have not gotten any Euchroidia dasytoides adults yet. They're all still subadults. Maybe today's the day, though. We'll see. That'd be awesome. Been waiting for dasytoides adults for a while. Those are my dream Euchroidia, to be honest. For the longest time. You could not find them available anywhere. They're very, despite being one, dasytoides is the most widespread Euchroidia species, and it also has a lot of subpopulations as well that differ in coloration. But despite that, they're really not readily available. Most of them are temperate Chinese species, so it kind of explains a little bit of it. We don't get a ton of imports from China, and when we do, people never take into account the temperate part of the temperate Chinese species and usually kill them by not giving them a diapause. But I have right now the Zonata population, which is from Taiwan, and in theory probably does not require a diapause, although I think if I had given mine one when it was winter, I probably would have had adults emerge by now. I really do think that both triggers Euchroidia to grow at a steady rate and also tells them, okay, it's time for me to mature. Because Taiwan does get a little cold in the winter. I think it even snows in some parts of Taiwan, so during the winter. But yeah, so we'll wait and see. They should do fine for at least one generation without a diapause, but I will be giving them one next generation for sure. I mean, if I don't have any adults by fall, I will probably just give my subadults a diapause and just hope that they mature in the spring. Yeah, I really do hope that I get those Euchroidia dasytoides to breed for me, because it would be great. They're one of the largest Euchroidia species. If you type Euchroidia into Google, dasytoides is probably the species that's going to pop up. It's the most iconic member of that genus, in my opinion. The typical blue-green adults with a nice red-orange stripe going down the middle of their wings. Tonkinensis, the Zonata population of dasytoides, which is what I have, is the most iconic dasytoides line, in my opinion. They got that nice, beautiful coloration. They just look really nice. T-Rex07, do I have fireflies? No, I might collect some while I'm in Pennsylvania next week, though. Hopefully I will. I think my friend Brandon, he has fireflies on his property, actually. I was supposed to get some from a friend of mine. I was supposed to trade him for some, but he never got back to me on those. But he's probably busy. But yeah, no, I don't have any fireflies right now. I had some last year. They got a fungal entomophagus fungus infection, and they ended up all dying as a result. But yeah. So no, I don't have any fireflies. I do have a lot of bioluminescent click beetles, though, which glow brighter than fireflies and are cooler than fireflies, in my opinion. A lot cooler and a lot easier too to breed. To be honest, fireflies kind of suck. They're just, the larvae of fireflies require very specific foods and varies on species. The species that I worked with last year, Photinus pyralis, seem to prefer earthworms for their larvae. But some other fireflies only eat snails or slugs. Some are just generalist predators, but most are pretty specific. So yeah, but bioluminescent click beetles are a lot easier. You breed Cincindella campestris. Oh, that's cool. I really like tiger beetles. No one really breeds those in the U.S. with any consistency. again, those are another one that can be, depending on the species of Cincindela, like the trigger for oviposition can be crazy. Like most of them oviposit on sand, with few exceptions. But then some require, seasonal cues to oviposit. Some, I think there's a species, an endangered species, a coastal Cicindela species that requires, what is it, brine? They require brine shrimp or something in the environment, very specific to the coastal environment that to trigger oviposition. I think it is a certain level of brine in the substrate. So yeah, but no, even the easier to breed species, a lot of people in the U.S. don't breed. I think a lot of the U.S. Cicindela species also do require a diapause for pupation. I think that's a pretty common requirement for U.S. tiger beetles, is the diapause for pupation. And people, at least here in the U.S., but broadly in the hobby as well, at least when it comes to insects, we don't really. A lot of people just don't take diapause into consideration, and or consider diapause to be a huge hindrance and not something that they want to bother providing. And if they need to provide it, then they just don't want to keep whatever it is that needs a diapause, is the general opinion of people in the U.S. Which I understand for people who live in the South, where it doesn't really get cold in the winter, and so you don't really have a lot of options in terms of giving something a diapause unless you have a fridge or a wine cooler to stuff them in. But I mean, for people that do live in areas that get cold during the winter, like, it's not that difficult. You stick something in a garage or even a particularly cold corner of your house. Unless you're really, really rich, living it up, most people are not heating their houses to the high 70s or 80s during the winter. Most people, it drops to like the low 60s in their houses. People like to save on heating, at least in some rooms of their house. And, low to mid 60s is a decent diapause drop for a lot of more slightly temperate species. Some do require much harsher diapauses, but still, not most of what's in the hobby. Hey Martin! Hey, nice. So anyway, now listening to you live while doing my chores. Nice to see you. Cool. Type in the chat if you find anything interesting. I'm sure if you do, there'll be pictures on Discord as well. Cincindela campestris is very successful in well-drained sand. The larvae feed on Formica rufa. Oh, they're anteaters. That's cool. Wonder if they would feed on springtails at all, or if they're specifically ant feeders. Yeah, I wish more people in the U.S. bred tiger beetles because they're cool. I like them. Especially like the Amblychia species, which is as close as the U.S. will ever get to Manticora in the hobby. Those are cool. Tapping off, Pseudoglomerus magnifica Cook Fong babies, which there are a bunch of in my enclosure, which I'm so happy. I've tried the species like 3 times now, and every time I failed. Which is weird because I've tried 2 other strains of Pseudoglomerus magnifica, and both times instant success. But these guys in particular, this strain, I don't know why, it's been giving me a headache, but I finally got them breeding. And I think it just had to do with with them probably being a little less tolerant on being kept too dry, I think. So I lowered ventilation for these guys by quite a bit and keep them more humid. But still, enough ventilation to where the hides are still dry, and for most of the time at least, and because they don't like their surfaces being too they don't like high surface moisture. So the hides still need to be dry, but the air humidity needs to be pretty high. And ventilation is still important, but too much ventilation in too low of a humidity environment will still cause them to not be happy. And that's what was happening with me, as I was keeping my Pseudoglomerus just too ventilated, and my air humidity here is too low. Now I have an air humidifier in my room, though, which has really helped out, I think, but still. Yeah, these guys are doing great for me now. And the funny thing is, though, I have not seen... There's so much cork bark in this enclosure, too. I gave them a ton of hides. There's so much bark in this enclosure, so many nooks and crannies that I'm not, like, turning over looking for the females. I have not seen the females, the adult females in here for a while now. I honestly did not know if they were still alive. I didn't know that they were gravid. Most of my Pseudoglomerus females, they give birth and then they climb on the sides of the enclosure. That's where they like to hang out, and then you see the babies underneath them. But these guys have been completely hidden the whole time. So I didn't even know I had gravid females until all of a sudden there were babies everywhere, which is pretty funny. That's not how it's happened for me with my other two Pseudoglomerus magnifica strains. But yeah, so I guess these guys are happy with the new setup. So I wish the Parasphaerus flavipes females from Singapore that I have in here would give birth too, but I think those are too far gone. They require probably new sperm to do anything. But I was too little too late with figuring out the care on those. I think those like exactly the same conditions that the Pseudoglomerus like. I previously kept them too humid and probably also too ventilated as well. They seem to like it quite a bit drier. So sucks because these metallic Parasphaerus flavipes are pretty, very pretty. But on the plus side, I should be getting a Malaysian strain of this same species pretty soon. And I mean, hopefully Martin can find some of these in Singapore as well. Even if he just finds males, it'd be pretty nice. But yeah. It sucks too. It really sucks with these Parasphaerus flavipes. I wish I'd figured them out with the not liking high surface humidity faster, because those the males of the Parasphaerus flavipes actually seem to live like a decent amount as well. Like my male lived for a couple months, so they're not as short-lived as like Parasphaerus pygmaeus males. They probably would have lived longer if I had kept them drier. So yeah, unfortunate, but you live and you learn. So hopefully I'll get a chance with the Singapore strain again one day, but if not, hopefully I can do right by the the Malaysian ones that I get here soon, which are captive bred stock too that I'll be getting. So those should be supposedly easier than wild caught stock of that species. So, and then we got the Parasphaerus species South Luzon from the Philippines here in the U.S. that are also metallic. Now those, I think I have I've seen like 3 or 4 of them at the same time recently. I don't know how many survived the initial stress. They were shipped very poorly. I don't know how many have actually survived the initial stress. And I put them in the initial shipping stress, I should say. And I put them in a large 5-gallon enclosure. And they're still tiny though. They're not growing fast, which is a little concerning. But hopefully Kyle and Junior have those too, and are hopefully doing well with them still. And I found an alternative source for that same stock. Same exact stock from the same collector, but from a third party person who's much more easy to deal with, I should say. So I'm hoping to get more of those in, actually. Just through trading. So hopefully I'll be able to get a booster culture of those and then get a nice thriving culture started pretty fast. because it is a very pretty species of Paris ferris. And then I'm also hoping to get a species of Paris ferris from Panay, Philippines. Paris ferris CF glomeriformis from Panay, Philippines, that is in the culture in Europe, actually. It's been in Europe culture for a couple of years now. But I have a line on those that I should hopefully be able to get in September. So, yeah, these next couple months, I should be getting some pretty neat stuff in. Pretty excited. I'm going to go with dog food. Read carpet beetles. Anthrenus verbasci is the easiest. How do you keep your Anthrenus verbasci? Because I got a group of those from Satchel, which I should ask him how he set his up too, to be honest. But I got a group of those, and I set them up similar to how I set up my Trogoderma simplex, and the Anthrenus did not take off. It almost seems like a lot of the larvae just either starved or dried out, but I thought they could take bone dry conditions. They're not even well ventilated. I basically just have them in a deli cup with some crumpled paper towel, a bunch of dead dried insects and dog food at the bottom, a few pinholes on the lid, and that's it. And I just keep them dry. You keep them in wool with dead insects? Okay. I don't really have access to wool at the moment, but still, I mean, that doesn't sound that much different than not so dry. Okay. That might be my issue then, keeping them too dry. I might have to set those up on actual substrate then, to be honest. And just keep a little corner humid and the rest dry, but put the food on the dry side maybe. Again, I should really just ask Satchel. He's the one I got them off of. And he would know how to breed them because he's the one who sent them to me. But I don't know why I'm being lazy about that. But yeah, okay, so I probably have to revamp my Anthrenus enclosures. I think I still have some. They're just not been breeding. They need to be kept to the 8 to 30 Celsius. See, that seems weird though, because they're I mean, my room is warm anyways, so they should probably be at that temperature. But these are house pests we're talking about. Anthrenus are often found in households in temperate areas where it does not get that hot inside. So it'd be weird if they actually require very warm temperatures just to survive. So I have another Anthrenus species from Osceola Mills, Pennsylvania. And those my friend found underneath a shelf in his kitchen. It was like a pile of dog food that had somehow gotten under there. But it's definitely not that warm in his kitchen. So, yeah, I have noticed the adult Anthrenus live a ridiculously short time. It's kind of crazy. What are your thoughts on the diapause requirement? Do they seem to need that? Because mine have been coming out at super staggered. Mine have been maturing at super staggered rates, which is annoying when they live so short, because then it's really difficult to get pairs synced up and breeding. I think that's been my main issue, to be honest. So I don't know if they need a diapause or not. And then artificial nectar. Oh, you actually feed the adults nectar. Well, if they live 7 to 9 days in captivity, do they even need to feed? If they only live that long, even with nectar in their diet, feel like they probably wouldn't even need to eat, to be honest. I mean, I do see them. They do visit flowers. That is a thing. How a lot of them are cited on Bug Guide and stuff. So, but if it doesn't actually prolong their life by much, then that's kind of unusual. Unless they only live like 2 days without it, maybe. Salgania haven't bred yet. Panacea is doing great. Yeah, Salgania are weird for me. They also go through spurts. I just finally started getting babies from my Salgania incerta again, but those had not been breeding for a long time, and a lot of my adults died off. But now they're finally breeding. So hold on 1 sec. Sorry about that. But yeah, my Salgania incerta are weird. They don't really breed very consistently. They seem to go through waves of they'll hit a certain population density of like a few dozen adults in the colony. They'll breed, and then those new adults will mature, and then they just don't breed until a bunch of the older adults have died off. Which is kind of annoying. I've not been able to get them to breed to like sellable numbers, basically, not with any consistency. My Salgania ragii are kind of the same. I've been able to part with some groups of those. I think they just need like a lot of space. The ragii, especially since they're so freaking huge. A lot of space. I think they're a little picky with the wood decay level as well. They seem to prefer white rot wood to brown rot. Panacea are not picky about the rot level at all. Neither are Encandelia, really. They'll both consume brown rot pretty readily, but Salgania seem to prefer white rot for breeding, so that's a little annoying too. So yeah, they seem to prefer like less rotted wood. But yeah, they're kind of a pain. They're kind of a pain. Salgania compared to Panacea. I'm not exactly sure why, but I think it has to do with the wood decay levels and possibly crowding. I'm not 100% sure. But the thing is, I see people in Europe keeping them, and they're keeping them in like black flake soil with just a few scraps of white rot wood, and they have tons of them. So I don't really understand what's going on with Salgania, to be honest. I don't know. I haven't got them figured out yet. I wish I did. Wish I could be of more help, Martin. Oh, let's pinch Laura. Male. Adults can reproduce without food or water. Feeding does not extend their life. Okay, with the Anthrenus, yeah. That's what I figured. It's weird that they would even eat at all, to be honest. I mean, a lot of insects that live that short and where feeding doesn't extend their lifespan, they just evolve to not even eat. But there are plenty of sightings of Anthrenus visiting flowers, so that's pretty interesting, to be honest. I wonder if the adult Anthrenus on flowers are not eating nectar, but eating pollen. Might be worth giving them pollen or artificial pollen and seeing if that makes a difference with the lifespan. Or they just could be completely short-lived, and there's nothing anyone can do about that. Future you'll breed Anthonis muscorum. Oh, that's a lot of Anthonis species. That's really cool. Yeah, I have 2 species. I have the CF verbasci and the an unidentified species from Pennsylvania. A lot of them look so similar, though. It's really hard to get confirmation on what species they are without sending some to a taxonomist here in the U.S. at least. But that's cool. I hope you're successful with those species. And Esau Lamprey had another boom of babies. Yay, that's awesome, Martin. Congratulations. Great to hear it. My decor lamprey have been breeding pretty well, and I just had one of my Opisthoplatya orientalis adults mature. It's a male, and I think I have a subadult female as well. Which that species is really pretty. I don't know how they're so underrated here in the U.S. The Opisthoplatya. Decor lamprey too, to be honest, they're pretty underrated, despite their rarity and very pretty patterning. Yeah, I don't know why no one likes epilamprids here for some reason, which is a crime in my opinion. But yeah, so I'm hoping the Opisthoplatya will breed well for me and get those reestablished here in the U.S. because we pretty much lost Opisthoplatya, it seems. But yeah, the decor lamprey are doing well. I should be getting a couple species of Rhabdoblatta here very shortly, hopefully, fingers crossed. So yeah, would love to keep expanding my epilamprid collection, especially now that I've boosted my room humidity and I have a better understanding on how humid to keep these things. They seem to be doing a lot better for me. At the decor lamprey, for example, I failed miserably to breed them last time, but now I got new stock and they're doing much better. These guys I need to move to a larger enclosure. I've got, I think, adults now of Polyphaga saussuri, the big old Saussure's giant sand roaches. One of my favorite chordid species. So big. So big. I remember last time I kept these, it took me like 1.5 to 2 years to rear the nymphs, and I got these as small nymphs at the beginning of this year or the end of last year, and they're already mature. And the last time I kept them at room temperature. This time they're like the 80s, and they grew so much faster, and still hit the same size too. So yeah, temperature really affects the growth of roaches for sure. Anthrenus bobo. I like that species too, just from the name. I don't even know what they look like, but bobo. That's a pretty funny scientific name. Is that named after someone, or does it have a different a meaning? I say like Bobo Baggins. It sounds like an off-brand version of The Hobbit. Pseudoglomerus tarsalis are popping off, man. I have so many now. They're doing really well. So that's great. Hoping to get some other pseudoglomerus species soon. Hopefully, at least by the end of the year. I can add at least a couple more species to my roster. We unfortunately did completely lose area here in the US. They did not take off. I do have the Pseudoglomerus valida though, and those are doing pretty well. I finally got adult females now, so just waiting for those to start breeding. Those are cool. Those are just like darker, glossier Tarsalis, really. I'm gonna switch headlamps because this one was dying. Oh, what did I just do? Nothing. Charge this one. All right. This is my Plecoptera poii enclosure. Which I got these breeding for me again, thankfully. Started them up in a much larger enclosure as well, compared to previous setups I've had for them. Yeah, they seem to be, right now, it looks like they're starting to hit a population boom. A lot of new adults in here, subadults, and lots of hatchlings, so seems like they are doing good. I should probably have a big, thriving culture pretty soon. Yeah, these are cool. We still need Plecoptera picta. No one seems to be able to find them here in the US, even though they have a fairly large but spotty range across the southeast. No hobbyists have been able to find them, which is pretty sad. Let's fix that. And this Bobo comes from Africa. That's cool. That's cool. I imagine they don't. Are they invasive to other countries, or did they? The stock you have, was that like actually imported from Africa? Okay, have these guys started laying eggs yet? These Aranavaga grata. I feel like they haven't started laying yet. That's not good. I've had adults for a little bit now. Oh, well, that's fine. Just make sure these don't crawl out. But I really need Aranavaga grata to start breeding for me. It's like one of the few Aranavaga that I've not been able to freaking crack the code on. Which sucks because they're a pretty large Aranavaga species and they're really nice, but really nice looking. But yeah, I can't seem to get them to just lay eggs. Which is really bizarre. Well, I'm about to set them up on just straight sand, to be honest. Like, I have them on a very sandy mix with some chunky fir bark mixed in as well. Aged fir bark. Supposedly they like a very chunky substrate. I'm trying to mimic a Tyrandal's substrate composition. He's breeding them very successfully, but yeah, I'm not seeing any ooths despite having females in here for a decent bit now. So I don't know. Don't know what's going on. What does a guy need to do to breed Aranavaga grata, man? That's unfortunate. Yeah, I don't know. I might actually just switch them to plain sand and see if that does anything. Yeah. Nope, not seeing a single ooth in here. Pretty regrettable. Alright, well. Got some nice big females too this generation. But at least in this group I got. Well, alright, nothing there. Ooh, look at that. I got adult pairs of Darapeltis pollinoi now. These look cool. Very pretty, like one of the most patterned, if not the most patterned, Darapeltis species. They're pretty cool. This is my first time keeping this species. I'm hopefully gonna have success with them. Also, just keeping them pretty humid. So that seems to be what Darapeltis really want. Even though they come from areas that are drier, they seem to have their population booms during the wettest seasons of Africa. That's when you start seeing them like swarm in their native habitat. So it seems that they really just want pretty high humidity. Decent ventilation still, but high humidity seems to be pretty important to them. At least high air humidity. So yeah, trying my hand at this species, and hopefully I succeed with them. As well as all the other Darapeltis I hope to work with. I'd really love to get Darapeltis erythrocephala back in the hobby here. Those are really nice. Big, red-headed. Been in Europe culture a couple times, but they never make it over here in time. And then they keep losing them in Europe. Not 100% sure why. Because they seem to do well with most of the other Darapeltis over there, but sucks too. Darapeltis species Jinka seems to have been completely lost from culture across the board. Nobody has them. Only species Masai Mara. This goes next. Mm-hmm. What do you got here? Pseudomop septentrionalis from San Antonio. I'm a little annoyed with this culture. I just set them up like a few months ago on new substrate, and it's got freaking Leucocoprinus mycelium in it, which is a little annoying. But I'm hoping it's not gonna bother them too much. Yeah, this next generation has started doing pretty well. What do we got here? Arnavaga Del Rio. This is the dark color form of Arnavaga Booleana. These guys seem to be doing pretty well. They kind of crashed a bit previously, but have recently started rebounding. Finding a good amount of small nymphs in here, so that's good. I was pretty worried I was actually going to lose these, but they seem to be doing better now. Okay. Yeah, so my Macropenecia didn't breed this year, which I'm still kind of bummed about. But I had isolated the male from the females, hoping that would get them to give birth, but it didn't. And we're past the breeding season now, I think, so I just dumped the male back in today. Oh, that was a mistake. My Melanozosteria soror are freaking exploding. There's like hundreds of them in this 1 gallon container. Which is weird because they went from like not doing that well to all of a sudden I had tons of them. I think they're just kind of territorial when they get larger. And so they kind of weed each other out when establishing initially, but yeah, after that, once you got them breeding for you, they're very prolific. So there's like tons of babies in here. So that's pretty nice. Another nice little. I think these are true Polyzosterinae. So the only Polyzosterinae that is doing pretty well in U.S. culture right now. This back. We got some arachnids here. These are my Metacero, the Mite Harvestman. My 3 adults are still alive. They keep clustering together in the same corner. Still no babies, though. Does not seem to be... They're not breeding, so I don't know if I have a unisex group or what. Might be that they require seasonal cues. So I'm keeping them warm for now, but once winter comes around, I'm going to drop the temperature on them and see if that gets them to start ovipositing. These are my Charinus acosta. I'm just going to give these guys a little spritz. And then we have Stignoma spiniferum, big pine key. Which I think the Stignoma that I got from Carlos from Flamingo Everglades. I'm pretty sure those are also just Stignoma spiniferum. They look exactly the same. If anything, the Flamingo ones are a bit duller in coloration compared to the big pine keys. But yeah, they look exactly the same. And the only difference is the ones from Flamingo seem to have larger chelicerae, but that could just be random environmental differences, or I just happen to get some nice major adults. But yeah. So this is my new setup for the Stenotris puertoricensis. Yeah. From Archbold, Florida. These are a schizomid. They are mini garoons, as some people call them. And I rehoused them because it didn't seem like they were doing too well in their old enclosure. I think they want more width than depth. They still are on several inches of substrate, but at least like 2 to 3 inches of substrate, but and they're tiny. But I think they need more width to establish more territories in the enclosure, to maximize the population. But gave them a deep, chunky substrate, and but in rehousing them, I found the 2 females that I started with. At least I assume that they're the 2 big females that I started with, and an immature. 1 immature. Granted, there are a ton of Coecobria springtails in this substrate, and the immature is the same size and color and general body shape as the springtails. So it's very likely that there are more immatures in here that I just did not see combing through the substrate because they just look like springtails at this size. But yeah, so there's some breeding action going on. I got at least 1 baby. Hopefully they're more than that, and hopefully now that they're in a new, bigger setup, they will keep breeding and more babies will survive. But yeah, there's they're breeding in here, so we'll see how big I can get the population. Hopefully I can get it to a level where I'm able to sustainably harvest from them and disperse them in the hobby. It is a parthenogenetic strain of this species, though, so I mean, literally a single individual constitutes a starter colony, so there is merit in that. But yeah, they're doing pretty well. Just gonna sprinkle some fish food on here, not for the Stenotris, but for their food. I got Coecobria in here, and the springtails need to eat so that the Stenotris can eat the springtails. But yeah. These are really cool. I really want more species of stignomids. Sorry, not stignomids, schizomids. Because, I mean, I'll take more stignoma species too, but yeah, schizomids are just such a cool little group of arachnids. Yeah, just trying to see if I could see any on the side. I don't. And this is just more Stignoma spiniferum from Big Pine Key. Alright. Get those housed. Or not housed, shelved. Yeah. Those I just took care of. My pistol plant here. This is my Nocticola species Malaysia setup. They're doing pretty well. For the longest time, I haven't had like an actual setup dedicated to these. I just threw them in with other roaches, and they seem to do best like that. But now I got them in their own enclosure, and they seem to be doing well in here. All right, now we have Theria regularis. These are doing very well for me. I thought they weren't for a while. So my adults pretty much all ended up dying off, and I wasn't seeing any babies. But now there's a lot of babies in the substrate, so quite happy about that. The last adult female dead. But yeah, there's plenty of babies in here, so that's good. I'll get a nice next generation going on. I really want those long-winged Theria. I'm hoping those will make it to the US here eventually. Wow, there's a lot of babies in here. That's great. Yeah, they seem to be spreading throughout the hobby at a decent pace, which I'm glad. One of those few species that the Russians got, several years ago that actually is spreading around. Yeah, God, I really want some of the other species that Russia has right now. I really want to get the Megaloblata and all that other stuff, but obviously not the easiest to get any of those species. Not directly from Russia, at least, especially considering the state of the the whole war. But yeah, no, they got some awesome species over there, and this is one of those few ones that actually originated in Russian culture and has spread through Asian culture and now through European culture and eventually U.S. culture, I'm sure. They seem to be a lot slower breeding than a lot of the other Theria species, though, because it seems like everyone who has them, it takes a while for their colonies to establish. Especially the ooth hatching time seems to be pretty long for them. I do wonder if moisture fluctuations might help with getting these to hatch faster, like drying them out for a little bit and then soaking them. Because Kyle seems to think that's what gets a lot of the other Theria species to hatch faster. At least that's what he made it sound like in a conversation I had recently with him, but I don't know for sure. Yeah, I just keep my Theria on like a humidity gradient that's pretty consistent, and they do however they do. These I need to label because I'm going to forget. These are... Yeah, I just separated my Aranavaga erratica from Swaharita today. That I forgot to write a label. Sahuarita. Arizona. Let's get that on here. And there we go. All right. It's weird. My Forficula dentata, one of the European earwigs, have not bred, and I'm kind of perplexed because, I forget. Maybe they don't breed until they've had a diapause. I could have sworn they breed in the summer, though. I could have sworn. Like, I got males and females, and they're doing fine, but they're just not doing anything. So I do wonder if they might actually breed in the fall. I forget. But, they're kicking, but I will give these a diapause, though, when the time comes, but yeah, kind of weird. They're very prolific when they do breed. It's they're basically a pest here in Idaho, to be honest. You find them everywhere, but yeah, they don't seem to breed awfully fast, or at least they don't seem to breed during the summer. Myctoniscus metcalfi doing great. I seem to have failed with Myctoniscus spinosus, which is weird. I don't know why. I'm keeping them the same as I kept my metcalfi. The only thing I can think of is I accidentally overwatered them at one point, but I don't see how that would kill the entire culture off, especially since there's a single Myctoniscus spinosus that's stowed away in my Legidium elroidia enclosure, which I keep. We're basically semi-aquatic sort of isopod. So I kept those like drenched, and that one Myctoniscus was in there for quite a while, and I just removed it now and put it in with my actual Myctoniscus spinosus enclosure because the Legidium failed to take off, so I kind of tore that enclosure apart. But which I am done trying Legidium. I've failed 3 times, 2 or 3 times now, and yeah, I just can't seem to give them the conditions they need to survive. So yeah, I'm done with those. But yeah, no, it's weird. I don't know what happened to my actual Myctoniscus spinosus enclosure. I'm hoping there's just like 1 or 2 left in there, and now that I just threw another individual in there, they might be able to do something. But yeah, kind of weird. Kind of bizarre. Oh, nothing. Lucea medica grossi. Ooh. I just got an adult. Just had an adult mature. Lucea medica grossi, one of the prettiest Lucea medica species, in my opinion. Fresh adult female, kind of stunted. I kept these in a pretty small enclosure for quite a while. Only recently did I put them in this 5-gallon, so all my adults are probably going to come out a little small. But yeah, there's still some fairly large nymphs in here. But yeah, I'm going hard on the Hermetica and Lucea Hermetica. I got new groups of each of them and trying to breed them. Kyle seems to think that just keeping them really, really humid, moist, and not too ventilated is the way to go. So that's what I'm doing. So we'll see if that works, because I really like that group of roaches. I just have not had the best luck with them. I've tried multiple substrates, temperatures, etc. I guess the only thing I really haven't tried that, fervently is keeping them consistently very, very humid, very moist, I should say. So that's what I'm trying. Hopefully it works out. Nice. Getting a decent amount of Dichronorhina derbiana hatching out. Which I need to move them to a larger bin soon. But yeah, I'm giving flower beetles a try with these Dichronorhina. I'm really, really hoping that these do well for me. My main thing with my main thing with beetles in general, the scarabs, is just pupation. Like, I was not able to get Goliathus to pupate properly for me. Well, they pupated, but they didn't survive pupation. So Dichronorhina are supposed to be just easier Goliathus, basically. Mostly protein driven in terms of their food, which is what I like for flower beetles. Because like these I just have on slightly aged sawdust, and it's not even that well aged, and they're doing fine. Presumably mostly eating dog food, much like Pachnota will in captivity. But yeah, so like some of my grubs are pretty chunky already, and these are just L1s. So I'm looking forward to... Actually, I think I have L2s already. Holy crap. I'm just, I do need to rehouse these soon, though. I'll probably do that sometime this week. Right now, just moisturize them. Yeah, I won a female Dichronorhina derbiana from a giveaway on Instagram by West Coast Beetles, I think. And yeah, it ended up being a mated female. So not really something I planned on breeding this year, but you know, it was free and it happened to be mated. So, and it also happens to be breeding with minimal effort. So hopefully I could get a culture started. And if I do, then I'm gonna want some of the other species of Dichronorhina probably. I think there's a blue subspecies of Derbiana, really pretty. I would like those. Oh yeah, I got Simplos morsi hatchlings. That's cool. These guys breed so sporadically. I'm not really sure what they want. I'm hoping they breed more consistently in this new setup that I gave them. So we'd like to have a more sustainable culture going of these. Not that it matters. Not that like anyone's gonna want to buy them from me because no one likes Ectoboots, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, that's probably enough for that. Eurycotus improcera popping off again. I almost lost these last generation. I oversold for them, and then it did not go too well. But I ended up with a few pairs, and they've been breeding, and now there's a ton of babies again. That's nice. These are another really underrated Eurycotus species, in my opinion. They're so pretty. 220 of Anthurnis verbascular and 100 Anthurnis. Wow, that's crazy. Crazier that you counted them, because I feel like that would be annoying. But hey, congrats, man. That's awesome. Glad your dermastids are doing well for you. Dermastids are so underrated, in my opinion. I failed hard with a lot of the dermestes I got from Tennyson, but I'm getting, I think, all of them back from him, and I'm trying out his method for rearing them with the sardine. What is it? Sardines? No, minnows. I think dried minnows. That's what I got. Because they don't seem to accept just plain invertebrate prey. They probably need or not prey, but dead invertebrate bodies that do not work for those, like they do for Dermestes ader and seemingly Dermestes lardarius. So they actually need dead vertebrates. So, but dried fish seem to work well, or at least they're working well for Tennyson. So that's what I'm gonna do. I was actually able to salvage some fasciatus adults. Apparently, some of those are still alive. So I put those in a new setup with some dried minnows and dog food. And we'll see if they actually breed. But I think I'm getting more of those back from Tennyson anyway, so not a huge deal if they don't. But yeah, I should be getting Dermestes frischi, more fasciatus, marmoratus. I think that's it from Junior. Not Junior, Tennyson, sorry. Oh my god. Dermestes undulatus are doing really well. That's the thing, though. I'm a little concerned. I have two cultures of Dermestes undulatus. One from Tennyson in Utah and one from Wellston, Ohio. And I looked into it, and there's another species called Dermestes. Oh, nah, I dropped my Ergaula capucina. No, a substrate swimmer. Whatever shall they do now that their substrate's been tossed around? Oh no, they're fine. But no, my so I have two Dermestes undulatus cultures. But the thing with Dermestes undulatus is there's another species called Dermestes talpinus. And I think undulatus used to be considered a subspecies of Dermestes talpinus, actually. But the two species look incredibly similar. I don't actually, supposedly, there are just minor differences in coloration that are used to differentiate them. Probably also genitalia, but I don't dissect bugs, so that is useless to me. So I don't actually know if either of the strains I have are undulatus or talpinus, and I don't actually know. They could be. I could have two species. I could have one of the localities I have could be talpinus, and one could be undulatus, and I wouldn't know. But yeah, so that's a little. I still have them labeled as undulatus because that's what they were sold to me as, but actually I don't know what species I have, or if I have more than one species. I looked at them side by side, and they look the same to me. Whatever I have looks the same, but again, the differences between the two species are so minor. It even leads me to believe to question whether they should be two species. I don't really know on what merit the two were. Someone to breed Dermestes. Can you give me a tip of breeding? Show me Dermestes undulatus. Well, I'm not gonna be able to show them on camera here because they're so small and they're not gonna. This webcam kind of sucks. But hold on. I have. Where is it? Where's my recent post? Here, this. Copy. Link. Address. Here, if you check out my post here, T-Rex, you can see. Put that in the chat. Yeah, you should be able to click on that. That is my recent blog post where I posted pictures of the undulatus along with all the other Dermestes I had. Those are the undulatus from Utah. I have taken pictures of the undulatus I have from Wellston, Ohio, but I haven't posted them yet. I haven't even edited them yet, so I don't. I can't share those at the moment. But again, to me, like side by side, I compared the photos, and they look identical to me. The two strains I have, so I don't know which ones they are, what species I have. But yeah, all those species though of Dermestes in that post I'll be getting again. I mean, I still have the fasciatus, and I have a single adult Marmoratus, but I'll be getting Frischii, more Marmoratus, and possibly more fasciatus as well, actually. So. And my Dermestes lardarius, it's just the undulatus. I have both my undulatus strains in different Princessia van Weerbecki enclosures. They're just eating the dead Princessia van Weerbecki, which are hissing cockroaches, and dog food, and that's it. And the hisser enclosures are, I would say, like basically 50-50 humidity gradients, half dry, half wet, and there's some bark in there for the hissers, but it seems the Dermestes are boring into the bark to pupate. And she's fruit, but yeah, that's about it. They're pretty easy. They're the only Dermestes I got from Tennyson that I was actually able to breed, and that's because they'll eat dead roaches and dog food, and that's it. or at least that's all it takes to get them to lay eggs. So. This one. They also breed flower beetles. That's cool. Yeah, for flower beetles, I only have the Dichronorhina derbiana. Not a huge fan of scarabs, to be honest. They're not my favorite. I like the oddball beetles better, like Tenebrionids, click beetles, and dermestids. But the Dichronorhina are really pretty, so I actually do hope those breed well for me. And if they do, I wouldn't mind getting maybe one or two other Dichronorhina species. But I don't have easy access to a lot of like rotten wood materials, so I don't plan on, or even leaf litter. It's kind of hard for me to get because I live in a desert. So the wood, thankfully, Dichronorhina seem to take slightly fermented sawdust pellets, which that's easy for me to get, but not even fermented, just slightly aged sawdust pellets. But yeah, I'm never gonna be until I move to the east coast of the United States and I live in a forest. I'm really not gonna be able to keep a lot of scarab beetles because they require too much rotten wood, too much leaf litter in their substrates. So I would rather keep things that really just need protein for their diet. It's easier. Nice selection of species, T-Rex. It's a nice. It looks like a lot of those that I can tell. At least some of them are European natives too. It's cool. Most people are obsessed with the tropical species, but there's a lot of neat natives in Europe and America that get overlooked. My Hemiblaber granulata are doing so well. I was really I didn't really think I had a ton in here, to be honest, but apparently they've been breeding very well because I just gave Kyle 100 yesterday. I packed up 100 small nymphs for Kyle yesterday because he wanted a huge booster because he's apparently not had much luck breeding them. And it didn't seem to make that much of a dent in the population. There's still plenty of small nymphs in here. Most of my colony is small nymphs at this point, but there are also several adult females at the moment, and apparently they've just been pumping out babies. So yeah, that's good. I'm glad these are breeding well for me. Dare I say I may have the largest Hemiblaber granulata culture in the United States at the moment. they're at this rate, not for long. I mean, if Kyle succeeds in breeding his new group of 100, which he really should, well, if he keeps his in a larger enclosure, he'll probably have a larger colony than me in no time at all. Penned breed Trogoderma inclusum. Well, my Trogoderma simplex are pretty easy. I just keep them. You know what? I'll actually just show you. Hold on. Let me go get their enclosure. So it's just what is this? A 16-ounce deli cup with a vented lid. They keep chewing through the top though, so that's annoying. I would maybe recommend micro mesh or something, but and there's a bunch of I can't see them. There's some adults on the lid there. But I just basically gave them some crumpled paper towel at the bottom, and then I topped that with a bunch of this is probably too much light. I topped them with a bunch of dog food and dead dried insects, mostly dead roaches, but some dead beetles as well. And I just so it's really just paper towel and then a layer of dog food and then a layer of dead insects. And they've been breeding pretty well on that. They seem to mostly eat the dead insects, but they do definitely eat some of the dog food as well, especially as the dog food gets old. They seem to chew on it more. So, but yeah, there's quite a few in here. It's a pretty small enclosure. But yeah, pretty easy. And I don't give them any moisture at all either. It's completely dry. And the adults of these seem to live like weeks, if not like a month or more. Like they live a pretty long time for domestic, I think. At least compared to Anthrenus. So, yeah, these have been pretty easy. Well, you say exactly like Anthrenus, but that's exactly how I have my Anthrenus set up, and they are not doing as well. So, I don't know why. I think maybe the Anthrenus need a little bit more humidity. Because I don't give the Trogoderma any humidity whatsoever. I think that's my downfall for the Anthrenus, but I'll probably rehouse my Anthrenus soon to setups with some substrate that I can actually keep a little bit of it humid, but then the rest dry with a bunch of food. Hopefully that will work out. Already on my next generation of Grylus firmus. No, Grylus firmus, Alabama, Fort Morgan, Alabama. There's a lot of crickets in here. There's also a lot of Tagalogblata in here. It's a little annoying. I don't think the Grylus mind that though. I don't think the Grylus mind at all. Yeah, a bunch of new Grylus firmus. I don't know why I keep saying a firmus, but yeah. Grylus firmus. A lot of new adults. And then has enough space is essential. Okay. So I might need to keep them in a larger enclosure for those. I keep the Trogoderma at like 75 Fahrenheit. Not too warm. And I collected the Trogoderma in a motel that was definitely kept colder than 75. So clearly they do well even at lower temperatures. I just collected another Dermestid actually species the other day. Went to a restaurant with my grandma, my aunt, and my mom and sister, and my sister found a beetle on the table, and it was a Dermestid beetle. I forget which species. Let me check. It's one of the ones that is affiliated with beehives, I think, at least in part. Dermestid. Let me type Dermestid. I mean, they were initially at least associated with beehives, but I think they're just general scavengers. Google would load. Actually, move this a little bit. Let's see. Forget the genus. I know I've collected them before. Risa. Risa vespulae, the wasp nest dermestid. Yeah, Risa vespulae. Yeah, I collected one of those, so we'll see if it's a female. If it is, hopefully it will breed in the setup I put it in. So, we'll see. I collected that species before, but I think I kept them too dry and they just like desiccated. But now I have them set up better, so we'll see. Nice peppered roach. I'm getting a lot of adults from these. Hopefully I can breed them. Risa. No, that's Reesa. Yeah, I can copy the species name. I'll just copy this link. Copy. Paste. That's the species I'm talking about. I really want, and they're technically here in the US, but I've never seen them. They seem to be pretty uncommon. But what is it, that species? It's the common name is the odd beetle. What is it? Yeah, what is it? Thylodrius contractus, which has larviform females and really weird looking males. I would love to keep that species of Dermestid, but they're very uncommonly sighted here in the US, it seems. But yeah, the Thylodrius contractus, I would love to keep those one day. But I don't think, and they're not in culture here, and I don't think, I don't know anybody personally that finds them. But yeah, those would be cool to get into culture with larviform females. Substrate for Endurance is just fish flour. Oh. Well, that's easy. My Ergella Sulfoides old hobby stock are doing well. I really need to get pictures, though. The whole point of me getting these was I wanted to take good comparison shots between these and, well, really just good comparison shots of the pronotum so I could compare them to Pelosa and Martino's Sulfoides. Man, I think I got. I hope I have. It looks like subadult Eublabrus French Guiana that are getting pretty plump, probably close to maturity. So these are a first for the U.S. hobby as well, so hopefully they breed well for me. I've never even seen normal Posticus in person. These will be my first Posticus ever. Do I have Echetta hispanicus? No, I do not. I don't even have Echetta domesticus, to be honest. A lot of the Echetta in the U.S. hobby, at least that you can get from like pet stores, they're always really sick. They're really sickly. They seem to have bacterial infections, and so as soon as you introduce them to a nice enclosure, they just die before breeding, which is really annoying. I don't know how the cricket farms keep them alive. I once accidentally was given Echetta domesticus eggs in substrate that someone gave me from something. I forget. But the eggs hatched, and I ended up with a bunch of nymphs, and those bred just fine because they were hatched in my conditions. And they did fine. But yeah. But no, yeah, I don't think we have Echetta hispanicus in the U.S. hobby at all, to be honest. They clean them. Well, that's cool. But the Andrenis clean the Echetta. And Cricket Farms, they clean it. Oh yeah, yeah. And protein-rich foods. Yeah, I mean, it's probably just the state of the ones that you get at the pet store. They're dirty, and well, they feed them protein-rich foods there, I think too, but not high quality food. This my Fireness Maisie is doing very well. It's molted twice in my care. The first molt, it lost one of its antenniform legs, but the second molt, it grew most of it back, so that's nice. Yeah. Oh, these are so cool. I love these whip spiders. I'd like to get into more of them. I know I'd like to get into breeding more of them as well, but I mean, everyone makes it sound like it's such a hurdle to breed a lot of the whip spider species, so I don't know if I necessarily need more annoying arachnids in my life. Ooh, my first adult male, Hypericnoda species Venezuela. Ooh, and I might actually have an adult female. It's hard to tell. This might be an adult female. It might be subadult though, actually. It's hard to tell with the Hypericnoda. I think that's subadult. This one might be an adult female. It's hard to tell, honestly. But at the very least, I have subadult females by now. Possibly adults. Again, I can't really tell. But that's cool. Man. Male Hypericnoda look really nice. Really, like, sleek. But that's cool. Nice. I'm gonna have to get pictures of that guy. But yeah, so... Oh, two male Hypericnoda Venezuelas. Very pretty. And these do look different than the Hypericnoda Lidomorpha Panama males. More opaque. Is opaque the word I'm looking for? Might be more Caesar. I'm not sure. But yeah, more interesting colored pronotum for sure. The funny thing with Hypericnoda is, if you ever look at their eyes on the females and the nymphs, like the eyes of Hypericnoda are tiny, absolutely tiny. Like they got little, which makes sense because they're underground most of the time. But man, they're just really, really small eyes for even most burrowing blabberids. They have larger eyes than these, but they're just like little slits on Hypericnoda. Kind of reminiscent of like Macropanacea, to be honest. Oh, oops. I accidentally dug up a freshly molted male Hypericnoda. It's albino. Look. I don't even know you can see it on the camera. It probably blends in with my hand. Yeah, I don't know. Very pale. Yeah, let's put him back in there and hope his wings don't end up messed up. Yeah, hopefully Ties are doing well too. I gave him some of these species Venezuela because he's kind of a boss when it comes to breeding these South American moisture-loving blabberids, burrowing blabberids. So, yeah, I'm hoping just keeping these really humid will get me to breed them. Sorry, T-Rex. Okay, I also want to breed carabids. They're my favorite beetles. Yeah. Again, though, for me, I used to love carabids as well, but now, mean, I still love them. They're really cool beetles, but I've given up on trying to breed them. At least all the U.S. species seem to be a big pain. I wouldn't mind trying one of the, like a tropical genus that wasn't so dependent on seasonal cues. You know, maybe like a Southeast Asian species where it's like relatively warm and humid throughout the year. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily mind trying something like that, but it'd have to be interesting and colorful for me to, or either like really large and vicious looking, or really pretty and metallic for me to bother at this point. I guess some of the Damaster. I think that's how you pronounce the name, Damaster. Snail-eating Asian species. I think some of those have been bred multi-generationally now with some success. I would just need a lot of snails for them, but I think it's been done. They're pretty relatively easy. The easiest to breed? Carabus? Oh, Carabus, the genus specifically. Yeah. I tried Carabus nemoralis. See, the thing is, if I had snails and slugs and worms at the time, I probably would have been able to breed them just fine. But I didn't, so I tried giving them alternative food items, and they really weren't accepting them. The larvae refused to accept them. The other problem with Carabus is their eggs are really fragile. So if the adults dig them up, they end up dying, and if you dig them up, they end up dying. The eggs are super fragile. The slightest touch ruptures them. So that's a little annoying to deal with. But yeah, as long as you have the proper food items for them, I think Carabus are easy to breed. Again, though, those are also very reliant on seasonal cues for breeding, I think. So they need a diapause and all that. No, you keep Pterostitches. I used to. I think Pterostitches llama is the largest, at least in the U.S. I never kept them though. I was never able to find anyone selling them, and again, I'm not too interested in carabid keeping anymore. So, but yeah, Pterostitches llama I think is the largest U.S. species of Pterostitches. Man, I'm gonna miss those. These I already took care of earlier. These, nothing. Planning to travel to Egypt and breed the recently discovered Endurance aegypticus. That's really cool. That would be nice. A recently discovered species, too. That's interesting. Well, I hope you are successful in catching some and breeding them. always neat to get new dermestids into the hobby. Okay. I think we found in vulture nests. Ooh. Well, that'll be fun to find those. You're gonna have to climb into vulture nests to find them, possibly? Or maybe just check flowers for the adults. That's really cool. I hope we can breed those. Here's... Maybe a little more humidity. Yeah, I recently just revamped this enclosure. This is my Cephalophilus gracillipes. They're not doing so hot for some reason. I think their old substrate got a bit too acidic. So I just redid it. The mixture of coconut fiber and sand. This is the first time I've given them a sandy substrate, but I think that keeps the pH more basic. So I did that. And I'm hoping that they rebound. I have an adult, freshly matured adult female, a couple males, and then like an assortment of small nymphs. So hoping those rebound. At the very least, if that female starts laying eggs, should be fine. I think I'm actually gonna take care of a couple more setups here, and then I'm gonna hop off. Because I'm honestly feeling a little hungry right now. I haven't eaten much today, so I'll probably just hop off here, eat, go to bed. But I appreciate everyone who participated in today's stream. And hopefully it wasn't too boring. Let's see here. I'll probably get these fish pellets. Ioniscus Isellus Mardi Gras Dalmatians are doing fine, although I think I need to move these to a different enclosure. I think there's too much ventilation. I mean, I could just get, I think there's too much ventilation in this enclosure. I think they prefer lower ventilation, much higher air humidity, because their breeding's been relatively spotty. But I did just get a couple litters recently, so I can't complain too much. But I think they need higher moisture, higher humidity. My Ioniscus Isellus BC maples have also been breeding though, which is nice. So that's cool. And eventually I'm going to try to cross them and See what happens. I think someone else has already done it, but I want to do it myself. Especially since I was the original isolator of the Mardi Gras Dalmatians, and I always had hoped to try to cross them to an orange line to create orange Dalmatians. So, kind of a personal project of mine. But all right, with that, I think I will get going here. But all right. Thanks for everyone who participated in the stream. Appreciate it. I'll see you all. Oh, hi, Exotic Wilderness. Oh, you're coming in right at the end here. Sorry about that. 5 years, wow, for the Anthrenus aegypticus to mature. That's crazy. That's crazy. Hopefully, in captivity with a little bit of pampering, they won't take that long. I'm trying to get Cetonia. Okay, subspecies in the hobby with no success. Well, hopefully he'll be able to catch those at some point. Because those sound cool. Let me, oops. Let me look that species up real quick, because I'm actually not familiar with that species. Oh, those are very pretty. That's cool. They look similar to some Euphoria species we have in the U.S. I guess that would be our North American equivalent to that genus, maybe. But that's cool. Hopefully you can get those in culture. That'd be nice. No, Exotic Wilderness. Sorry. Yeah, I'm leaving soon. Okay, Martino. TJ, quick question. Sorry to interrupt. Is there any Apterus, Microapterus panacea species from Borneo? I think so. I think there's Panacea. Let me look it up. Panacea antenata. I think that's the spelling. Yeah, antenata. I think those have Brachypterus forms. I think there's also, what is it? Panacea angustipennis brevipennis. Oh, antenata is only from Burma. Really? I could have sworn. Oh, Panacea antenata is also found in China, but not Borneo. Okay. But I think there's a Brachypterus. Yeah, Panacea angustipennis brevipennis, which is found in Indonesia. Basically all the Indonesian islands, but not Malaysia though, not Borneo. You need to send me a photo on Discord then. Yeah, there might be. Let me see. Bolinensis. There are other Angustipennis subspecies from Malaysia, but I can't find pictures of any of them. Well, that's from Sarawak. That's Sabah. Sabah is not Borneo though, I don't think. Or is Sabah part? I think Sabah's on Borneo Island, so it would be. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think there are definitely species of Panacea that are Brachypterus, but Flavapennis, no, that's colorful. Yeah, there are Brachypterus Panacea species for sure, and there are a lot of Panacea on Borneo. I think probably undescribed species too. But yeah, definitely with triangular plates. Oh, but thinner. That makes me think of Panacea triangulifera, but those are restricted to Vietnam as far as I'm aware. Triangulifera. Yeah, I'm not sure. You'll have to send me a photo for sure, and I can try to ID them. It might be. I feel like I remember. I thought it was one of the Panacea angustipennis subspecies that had triangular wings as well, maybe even locality based. But to be honest, I forget. So yeah, no, I'll have to see your pictures for sure. All right then. But and then T-Rex, final question: are you going to breed more flower beetles in the future? Maybe. Like I said, I might get some more Dichronorhina species. But other than that, and maybe I might try Goliathus again one day. But other than that, I'm not too interested in flower beetles, mostly because most of them require a lot of rotten wood, a lot of leaf litter, and those are not easy materials for me to come by because I live in a desert. So I will get those materials for isopods and roaches that I have, but uh, beetles require larger quantities of that for large scale breeding. So I'm probably not going to get into that group a lot. And Dichronorhina seem to eat a lot of protein as larvae, so they need less edible substrate volume. So, or at least they go through that substrates slower. I breed a lot of Elateridae, yeah, but most Elaterid larvae, all the Elaterid larvae I have, uh, the only species I have that consume rotten wood is larvae. Only consume it for the first couple instars, so that's like a couple weeks maximum. The rest of their larval cycle, all they eat is protein. You can keep them in rotten wood and they won't eat any of it. So a lot of those as larvae, I don't even need to keep them on flake, so I'll just keep them on coconut fiber and they do fine. And then I only use a little bit of aged sawdust for oviposition for most of the bioluminescent click beetles. And then a lot of the other click beetles I have don't even need rotten wood to oviposit in. They just like the some of the Chalcolipedius I have, they just oviposit on bark, and then Elaeus just oviposit in like coconut fiber or any soil at all. So, but yeah, so Elaterids barely use any rotten wood whatsoever, and no leaf litter. Cetonids need a lot of leaf litter and definitely more rotten wood. So, but yeah, so some of the more protein hungry species like Goliathus and Dichronorhina, those I have some interest in breeding, at least a couple species. But yeah, for the most part, I won't be getting into flower beetles that much, unfortunately. Not where I live currently. When I move across the country, which I plan to do eventually, and I have more access to rotten wood and leaf litter, I will hopefully get more into more beetles. Poor TJ has no trees. Yeah, well, you know what? You know what, exotic wilderness? Yes, I have no trees. No trees. But yeah, I have darkling beetles though. And those don't need trees, so I mean that's cool. All right, guys. Thanks for chatting. I will talk to you guys. I will stream again eventually. Probably not till after the Pennsylvania trip, honestly. Yeah, so a few weeks. But all right. See you guys later. Thanks for everyone who participated. Goodbye.